two last meetings.
Two last meetings. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for city council at 6:30 last week, or a month ago.
Okay,
June
motion
18th.
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we'd like to make a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
We have another set of minutes to approve.
The workshop.
So we just did the council
Yeah,
meeting,
we
right?
have we need to approve the workshop.
Workshop.
The works.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from June 18th special meeting workshop.
I think we need to make a change. I came in late and I didn't conduct. You guys started without me, and then I came at 6. And so as long as we can make that adjustment, I'm okay.
Okay, adjustment made.
Right.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'd like to open it up to public comment at this time. If there are those in the audience this evening that have or would like to make public comment, we would ask you to step to the podium, state your name, and we'll give you some time.
I don't think there's anybody here for public comment. I think you're all here to comment on the stormwater plan.
All right.
My name's Trevor Coleman, and I live up there behind Mountain Crest. In one of the other meetings I attended, there was discussion about the new berm that LeGrand Johnson had put on their pit. And driving back and forth on that road, I've thought, could Hiram City work in collaboration with LeGrand Johnson to extend the Blacksmith Fork Trail from Hammer Road all the way to 800 East, using the easement that is set aside with our utility, our power company, and can help beautify that area and provide a bigger, safer walking path for people that use that road.
So Trevor, you're talking about putting it on top of the berm or just down to the south side?
Just
of
down
it?
on the side. I would assume LeGrand Johnson would not allow it to be on top. I'm sure that's a safety MSHA issue.
Yeah.
But I see multiple people walking that sidewalk, and all of the fences on the south side of the road are too close to the sidewalk. They all violate city code, which requires them all to be a foot off the sidewalk. And so you can't get two people past each other safely between the trees and the fence down that sidewalk.
You know, I think that's an excellent suggestion, Trevor. I have talked to Quikrete about landscaping that berm, and they've agreed to do that. But I think possibly we could ask them to construct it such that we could, if they were to landscape it and then flatten it, make a nice path there, then possibly we could look at some point even putting asphalt on it, if that be a future project. But I think
Yeah, for sure.
your recommendation is a good one. And I'll be happy to talk with Quikrete about including that in the landscape of those berms.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public comment and we'll open a public hearing at this time to receive public comment regarding Hiram City's stormwater management plan. So the public hearing is now open, and is there comments from the council with regard to our public hearing?
Mayor, can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Yeah, I make a motion to open the public hearing for the Hiram City Stormwater Management Plan.
I'll second.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. So the notice, if you've read the public hearing, we have to vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the notice, the public notice that was presented, if you haven't had a chance to read that, and maybe for those of you who are watching, it says, notice is hereby given that the Hiram City Council of Hiram City, Utah will hold a public hearing Thursday, July 16, 2026 at 6:30 in the Hiram City Council chambers. The purpose of this hearing is to receive public comment regarding Hiram City Stormwater Management Plan. And copies of the Stormwater Management Plan are available at the city office weekdays between 8 and 4:30 p.m. And also on the city's website. So with that, I would open it up to public comment. If there is anyone here to comment on our stormwater management.
As a city council, I'd like to ask a question. It's been a pretty hot topic with the Great Salt Lake and water and conservation and sending water downstream. Is there all possibilities, or I don't know. I'm trying to be open to what this document does for us, but is that something that could be an additional meeting and discuss if that could be something to pass water down to the
So I'm not sure what you're gathering at.
What,
You know what, what I read from this is that we haven't changed anything for 20 years. I mean, a long time, it seemed like. And I'm like, okay, with the, what the state's trying to do with get water to the Great Salt Lake, is there something with our stormwater that could be pushed downstream?
Well, there's a couple things with that. There is a certain amount of stormwater that, I don't know if I can address that, Mayor. just
Please.
briefly. With the stormwater management plan, there are certain areas where stormwater does go down different channels and systems downriver, more or less. But in large part, state requirements and included in our management plan require stormwater to be addressed as much as possible on site locally. Groundwater recharge is a big part of that. And so part of the state stormwater requirements won't let us do some of those things.
Okay.
And so it would, require.
I just wonder if some changes because of what they're going through, if they would say, hey, now we're open to a little more. I do know a farmer who's said he's in College Ward, Young Ward, their area. They're actually not, I'm not trying to get money out of this, but he said that if they won't raise crops for a year and don't put water down, the government's actually paying them to push their water shares. They can do it 3 out of 5 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to get money, but I'm trying
Something associated with
to.
irrigation districts, and there's a lot of question and deliberation in the irrigation industry about really, is that effective? Because there are so many downstream users where you're looking at the bird refuge and various wetland areas, other users and things that you can't take a drop of water and say, like, this guy's not, using his irrigation water and then sending it down to the Great Salt Lake. You can't track that and follow it to Great Salt Lake on a feasible, reasonable basis. And so that is a program, you're right. And there are irrigation districts in the valley here that are taking advantage of some of those options of sending their water downstream. But I'm really personally skeptical a little bit that you can take water from Paradise Irrigation Company and track that past Hiram Dam, past Wellsville Irrigation, past all the other irrigation companies, Mendon Irrigation, all the way out to Cutler. There's irrigation companies that pull it out of there, and then on across into Box Elder County, and still on a realistic basis say that water is getting to the Great Salt Lake. So I'm skeptical of that. I think people are getting paid to let somebody else take their water before it actually reaches Salt Lake. Personally, that's just my personal opinion. But there may be some things in stormwater that you could look at. A lot of our stormwater here in Hiram is either, for us to do something like that would take a lot of infrastructure, because most of our subdivisions are more or less isolated. We do have a couple of areas where we have regional stormwater ponds over in the southwest. Let's see. Yeah, the southwest part of town over there, Leon Savage's area, where over by the Poppletons. What is that name of that subdivision? I can't remember. Anyway, there's a regional stormwater area there that collects a fair amount of stormwater that could actually be piped or conveyed over to the Little Bear River. Most of the other stormwaters either infiltrate into the ground or go into like other irrigation ditches, which really an irrigation ditch gets smaller as you go out. And so, but that would be one if that were to happen potentially. Good question.
Anyway, I just wondered if it's something we could have a meeting, talk about and see if there's,
So
that was my question.
I may be way off base, but I think that I just don't feel like there's enough here to merit a long discussion on this topic tonight,
Sure.
quite honestly. And so I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time. There's no public comment. I think the plan is in place and I know that it's reviewed, and if there are major changes, it's taken care of. We bring it before the public. So with that, I maybe
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
a motion and a second, we'll close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's move to item 10A, scheduled delegations. Misty Hunsaker, a rezone from R2 to C2, seeking recommendation from the Planning Commission to the City Council to rezone from a residential zone R2 to commercial zone C2 located at 400 West Main. Tony, do you want to give us some input on this?
Yes, Mayor, thank you, and City Council. What we have here, it is the Hammockers that are operating in a residential zoning district with primary childcare. And opportunity had arose with a vacant piece of property with a structure on it in the Hiram city limits, and it is the LDS Seminary building that is there and south of South Cache. That they had approached the city at a time while they were under contract and asking staff, how could this be possible to make a transition from a residential neighborhood of having primary childcare as a primary accessory use in a home located onto this site. And in a lot of cities throughout the state of Utah, in residential zone districts, religious institutions and school districts are always a permitted use in those zone districts. And this had served that use, and it's been abandoned in fashion. They've left and put the property up for sale. And currently, the city code regulates a primary childcare as a primary accessory use. So a use has to be in place in order for the primary childcare to take place at that property. We discussed several different avenues and how, in the interest of time for the Hammockers, they were under a contract. They were bidding in a bidding process to make an offer to the property. They are here. They can speak to the dates and that part of their application. So they would like to get an understanding if this code could potentially pave a path for a primary use for professional childcare at this location. We opened a public hearing at the Planning Commission, and the path that we elected to take was to see if this could potentially rezone to a commercial district and move the primary accessory use into the commercial use as being a primary use. That means they wouldn't have to live at the property, or there wouldn't have to be a use there. And the planning commission delegated on that. I included the notes into your city council information. And there was some discussion about both zone districts. Could there be a possibility or an opportunity to open a residential zone district for a primary childcare as a primary permitted use? What that would do is that would make available a single family dwelling in a residential neighborhood to become have that use without being occupied by a single family at that home. And then it would start, the impacts of traffic and drop off would come with it. But they're working in a way, they're working when they're primary accessory uses. But there's a potential of an increase of impact to neighbors if it's just a standalone use in the residential neighborhoods. The planning commission also discussed moving the primary childcare to a permitted use and a commercial use to this location. And if that avenue, if there's a path paved for that, if perhaps at any time that use outgrows this space and relocates, then this property becomes a commercial use and it can accept the other primary commercial uses where it's located. And
So, Tony, is it, I mean, it's residential right now. And
It
in
is.
order to go to a daycare, it has to be zoned commercial. Is that correct?
there's several different scenarios to do this. But yes, it could be a primary use in the commercial district for professional childcare, which is not a unreasonable change to make to the current code anyway without the rezone. In a commercial district, have a brick and mortar building and place a primary child care there without having a permitted use first. You know, how do you mix the two to get that? So that seems like a very reasonable amendment to the code to make. But tonight, you know, we're coming to you to look at the scenarios and the past, present, and future of that site, its proximity to the school, the residential neighbors to it, the commercial zones across the street, and where we arrive tonight, if we do, if there is going to be a consideration for a rezone, it's my request and staff's request to table it and let the applicant bring either ownership of that property or an affidavit signed by the current property owner to accept and support the rezone. What right now at the time I don't recommend rezoning someone else's property. But we had to get to this point in this date of time to resolve the outcome of the position that the Hammackers are in. And I hope that you can respect and understand that this is the most appropriate, efficient way that we could bring it to you to see where this will lead.
So a question about that. Thank you, Tony, for the background and information provided to the council as well. And I completely understand the viewpoint of not rezoning it without, without, like you said, a letter, like you said in your documentation, either having the applicant or proposed applicant own that or a letter from the current owner. would it be acceptable to staff if there was a condition made on a motion such that the rezone would move forward conditioned on getting said letter or ownership of the property?
I guess if you're comfortable,
And then if that didn't happen, the
Issuing
rezone
the
wouldn't go
condition.
through. If that didn't
Yeah.
happen, it wouldn't be rezoned. I guess my reason for that is twofold, bringing it back in another meeting and going through it. But more importantly, I think, is that may impact, right now, if we say, yeah, we think we're okay with that, and let's just table it, for example, and then the applicant goes and purchases this property and it comes back to the council, and then they're expecting an approval of a rezone, and then we decide, well, maybe that's not something we're not going to do that now. They've moved forward based on an expectation,
yes.
but
of
the
course.
council can't be obligated until there's an actual motion made. And so-
Staff can, yes, absolutely. Staff will accept that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I think then, Craig, what you're saying is then tonight, then we would have to decide based upon what you're saying. We'd have to decide if we're going to approve a rezoning for commercial tonight then, correct?
Yes, that would be, that's the item on the agenda. That's the way I would see that.
Good.
And the
as I
the
looked-
motion would be what Councilmember Rasmussen explained.
So to approve the rezoning pending the sale.
If you decide,
Or a letter
Or
from
a
the current
letter.
owner, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just think,
The reason needs to be adopted by ordinance. So it really, like, that's-
We have
Yeah.
to come back and.
so,
Oh, so
yeah,
this
you're
isn't an
right. It
ordinance.
will,
This is just,
yeah,
Yeah.
It'll
that's
come
the
back.
right ordinance we use.
Hey, Tony, this looks
Yeah.
to me like there's an island here. To the south is the trailer park, which is residential. To the north and, we need to come back,
Yeah.
the north and east.
yeah.
The west, sorry, north and west is the
and
school.
Yeah. Yeah, right there. That is the
It-
zone,
it
those are the
connects
zone
diagonally
districts.
across the intersection.
Sure. But it's the school is, and it's a permitted use to put a school in a residential zone. So there's residential zones all the way around, except, like you said, but it seems like it's an island there. I don't know that I'd like to make an island like that. But the other thing I've thought about is the school, and I'm totally in favor of, a business like that going in, but what happens if they outgrow this and want to sell it, and all of a sudden now we've got commercial property that now borders a school? And I did call the school district today and was trying to talk to Scott Rigby, yes, thank you, and ask him, but his mother's passed this last week, and so he was not available. But I wanted to talk to him a little bit about what schools allow or don't allow, within some, neighboring properties.
It's not what schools allow. Sorry to interrupt you, Michael, but
Okay.
it's not what schools allow. They don't have direction over what is allowed. It's either our city ordinance or state code
Okay.
requirements that,
Well, that was the
Allow-
question I was going to
Other
ask.
than
So,
businesses that would be deemed dangerous, yeah, the school district
Sure.
wouldn't have any say in what
So-
businesses, but
Stephanie, could you pull up ordinance, code section 1745-020, which is the commercial uses in our ordinance right now that are applicable in that zone?
Section
1745-020.
Oh,
here's a couple of concerns that I have just after reviewing this and driving down again and looking is, one, as you mentioned, Tony, once it's rezoned to commercial, at any point in the future, whenever the business is either no longer optional or operational or it's sold, that property is now zoned commercial. So we don't have any control over another business pretty much going in and operating right beside a school. And the map isn't up anymore, but how
1745,020.
Yeah,
Use
it's use
regulations.
regulations. It's the permitted uses in a commercial zone, and that shows us what would be allowed there.
Oh,
If
hold
you-
on one second. Rebecca, well, she was, let Rebecca
I
finish.
No,
I
yeah.
thought she was.
No,
I'm sorry.
she's, thank you.
So that's a concern, is we don't have any, or very little control in the future as to what business from this list can go into that, which is literally on school property right there. And another issue I have is the traffic. The traffic for South Cache right now is insane. 400 West, before school and after school, from the school south and the school north and down Main Street to Sinclair is just bumper to bumper traffic. I read in here that there's a plan for traffic to come in and out, but that's a very narrow, there's 6 parking stalls in there. There's barely any room to turn around and go back and forth. And so what if some of those parents are then parking just across the green there on school property? When kids are going back and forth, I think it's already a highly congested area with the traffic that's in there. I'm not sure how you would bring in additional cars and keep them just to that one area without it bleeding into the school.
It would present a challenge. I think the current layout and site plan of that school presents opportunity for a potential user of this site to pull into the school site and use their roundabout and leave.
It's, yeah, what,
Yeah.
25, 30
I'm
yards
sorry.
away. No, go ahead, Craig.
Go ahead, Craig.
That's a good point, and I think some of the things that in Tony's documentation, he presents that it could be an opportunity for sharing space, but it wouldn't have to be. And the way I look at it, there is a concern for that. And if the school is concerned for that, has concern of that, of not wanting school property to be used as any kind of part of the drop off or anything, you put a fence around it. Their site plan already has a lot of fencing and things, and I think it might already be fenced off.
It's not.
Well, not right now, it's not,
currently,
but
yeah.
in their
Oh,
site
in the
plan.
plan. Okay.
In their site plan to prohibit that access. The applicant, I would, not to put words in their mouth, but they probably don't want all of the school kids walking through or accessing their property as well. So if that's a concern of not using school property for that, then that's an easy solution of just fencing it across there. In this, when it was a seminary building, the school, the current owner wanted people walking back
Mhm,
and forth through there,
mhm.
but
There's a sidewalk going right from the
yeah,
school right to the
but that can
seminary
be
building.
easily changed. And so I think that's something that could be addressed. The traffic, yeah, there's a ton of traffic there, absolutely. A question I have, and maybe if it's okay with the mayor, the applicants could ask us, they're already running daycares. What are the typical hours? I know there's differences, but what are the typical hours of drop off and pickup? I suspect
number
that
of
their pickup
students.
is at the end of the day after work when school has already been out.
So let's just break. Misty, are you here? Why don't you just stand where you're at and answer maybe a couple of those questions for us?
So our hours will likely be from 6:30 in the morning till 6 at night. So yes, we will be operational during that half an hour that's really busy. But we'll have a lot of parents drop off before that half an hour, a lot of parents drop off after.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask, how many students do you currently have enrolled?
40.
40?
I will probably take over, because I'll keep mine where I'm at. I'll probably take 20 over to begin with. My max capacity will be somewhere between 70 and 80
In that building?
in that building, yeah.
And that's limited by space and state requirements and things, correct? Yeah.
And then how many instructors or teachers?
Max capacity 9, beginning 2.
And
How about parking? Do you have parking for staff for that many?
it's,
We would have to add, we would plan on that, whatever the city would require us.
and they show that on a plan,
They have.
some options for increased parking, which is possible. I made a note on there to say, increased parking as needed, but try to keep as much green space as possible along there as well. That was my comment, but
Is it feasible to have those 14 parking spots there with backing out and backing in and cars? Because that's a fairly narrow drive up and down there. How would the flow of
It's-
traffic?
It's a 2-lane access road. It meets the parking 24-foot aisle width.
Can I just add a comment, a thought?
Mhm.
You know, it seems to me if we change the zoning, we really are opening ourselves up for something that we may not be pleased with by a high density school like that. I guess my question to Tony is, what are the uses for that as a zoned residential? I mean, would it be another home? Would someone come in and buy it and remodel and make a home out of it? What are the potential uses as is?
So the very first seminary building that I went to there made a transition from seminary building to a residential home. Somebody had purchased it and repurposed it to a residential home. The permitted uses in that zone district are single family dwellings, accessory ADU, internal at this time, and public schools, public structures, public parks, churches, community center, and residential facilities for the elderly and persons with disability. It's really, we can look back at the beginning of the discussion. It's a it's a residential property.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Stephanie, can you
we-
pull back up
yeah.
the C2
If it
commercial?
were zoned to commercial,
zone
then what
in there.
would be allowed potentially?
There would be a lot of the same list that we just went through.
Yes.
Yeah, boarding and rooming house, hotel, motel, there's a list through here, office buildings. And then, then on 14 and 15 and 16, those are service industries, auto repairs, and appliance repairs. That's where it could potentially get intensified.
And those are potential uses, and absolutely, those are in the C2 zone. But looking at the property, just from an economic standpoint, I mean, you can't really take the seminary building and repurpose it for an automotive garage. You'd have to demolition it and then rebuild, which is expensive. You're gonna find property somewhere else where you don't have to take that cost on to demolish and rebuild something else in a pretty expensive piece of property. And so some of those things, I think, just realistically, in probably the lifetime of everybody here, you're just not going to tear that building down. It's a very nice building and build, one of those items in, 13 or 14, 13 through 16 on those permitted uses there. That's how I would interpret that or expect that to happen. So it's not, incidental outdoor storage. It's, there's just not enough space there to really create some kind of an efficient or economical outdoor storage space for one, just looking at some of those uses.
I would be concerned if somebody said, well, I want to open that up now. I'm going to put a boarding house. I want to make it maybe just if they got approved for even a small hotel, short-term rental, something like that, that would be of concern to me, that close to a school. So there are, I guess there's a few on there that I would really discourage, and yet there are some, certainly, Craig, that would be appropriate, but I don't know if we're willing to take that risk. That's my concern, quite honestly.
So Tony, in terms of what the mayor was saying, let's say that down the road, 10 years, somebody comes in and wants to put a gasoline service station in there. Now that it's zoned for C2, what do we have the ability in terms of approving or disapproving that if they meet all the guidelines for a C2 commercial?
It would be a permitted use, but there are design constraints. There's site constraints to this site that would make it nearly impossible for for that specific use, but every use that you see in, this is the commercial district, right?
Right. No,
Yeah, 1 through 19.
yeah, I share the
Yeah.
mayor's concern, and I'm just wondering down the road, do we have the ability going forward to approve or disapprove some of those commercial entities that may come in where the feeling is for the city, the community, everybody else, that wouldn't be a good use of that building.
Right. And
So
so these are permitted uses. So
Right, but-
they
if it's a
To deny
permitted use,
a
you can't,
permitted
if it meets
use
the
is-
regulation,
yeah.
you can't deny it. But
Okay.
look at a gas station there. There's a long, more narrow compared to gas station access ways, road to get back into there. For a gas station, again, you tear that building down and you build a new gas station. There's not enough space to put circulation around the gas station. And so I just don't see that as like, that'd be a failing business, based on the
And-
cost to put it in
Yeah, and I
there.
use the gas station just as an example, it
Yep, I understand.
could be
Yeah.
something else, so.
Yep. And
Yeah.
Mayor, just short-term rentals are already allowed in that zone that it's in right now.
But isn't there a distance from a school? Do we have to
Yeah,
have
so-
660 feet from a
So
school?
60
So
feet.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. And that would be irrelevant of whether it's zoned C2
Yeah.
so that's a good point.
Mhm.
I forgot the distance thing we put in.
You know, it's really funny that, and ironic, our school district has said that in the county, we don't have enough schools. We don't have enough buildings. We need to rebond. We need to build more things. And it seems like there's more portables showing up at all of our schools. And I'm like, I look at what you're trying to do as a school and I'm like, that seems like it's got 2 classrooms in the front office. It looks like a good school fit. And I'm like, I wonder if the school even has thought, oh, instead of having a portable moved on here, and I'm not trying to shut you down, please. I'm just trying to create a bigger picture. If the school district said, oh, that'd be a great place for us to have 2 more classrooms, could be added and it would be on campus for us. I know it's not the seminary, it's church that owns it now, but I'm just thinking, I don't know, just something I've thought about all afternoon, so.
So that's a good point, I guess. I mean, just the school district had every opportunity to go through the same bid process that the
Sure.
applicant is doing. And they, I don't know if they have an offer in on it right now or not, or who else does, or what that situation is, but the school had the exact same opportunity. And I would expect, thinking exactly like what you are, if I was the church planning on selling it, maybe I would expect they would maybe go to the school and say, hey, we're looking at,
Selling some property, huh?
selling this property. Are you interested? It's right next to your campus. I don't know if that happened, but they had, anyway, I don't know. That's just thoughts.
Okay, is there further discussion?
Mayor, I make a motion to, well, I guess, is this a motion? Because it's like you say, it's not an ordinance, but I'm just trying to understand, how do you give the applicant some measure of like, yeah, we think this could move forward because we can't do the rezone. I can't make a motion to say we will approve the rezone because it's not an ordinance.
Well, I think we've had enough conversation. We understand the scope of the project and the scope of what Misty is trying to accomplish here. I really feel that she deserves an answer, and I almost feel like we should bring it to a vote tonight, just based on the fact that she's put a lot of work into it, and I think the council, from my indication, I feel like you're ready to vote, but that would be up to you. So is there a motion?
I think Craig's right about this, that the ordinance, there's not an ordinance to make a motion on.
Okay.
So
We could make.
having a
we could-
discussion, I can get with the Hammackers and see if they want to bring it with an ordinance.
Can I make a motion to say, in general, we're in favor or not in favor or whatever, just to, Mayor, I make a motion to say that generally the council is in favor of a rezone of this property. I think it's a good idea. I think that there are some concerns, and I completely agree and understand those concerns. But I think that they can be mitigated as you go through the site development approval processes, in my opinion. So that's my motion.
So do we want to take that and vote on it, or is that, do we have a second on that?
I'm, be completely honest with you, I'm confused at what that motion does. So
Yeah.
before I even do a second, I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable with it.
Mhm.
The intent of my motion is just to say that to give the applicant, personally, I'm in favor of it. I'll just say that I'm in favor of going forward with rezoning that property. There's other ways that it could be approached. Tony has some other scenarios, but I realistically think that I think I would support it. And I guess if everybody else wants to just make a statement, then that accomplishes the same thing as
That
a
might be-
motion,
that
and it
might be
doesn't
best.
obligate the council
Mhm.
on an actual ordinance coming forward either. So
I think that is what we would like, well, the applicant.
And so
would
I will
like to
say,
hear.
I would be open to discussing some other options, if there's other options to be looked at, because I do think it would be a good fit. But my concern is down the road, if it's rezoned to commercial, I think that opens a can of worms down the road that we would have to deal with that I'm not sure would be a good idea. So as this is, I'm not sure I would be in favor of a rezone, but open to looking at other options if we can make other options work.
We've been through it. The only other thing I can think of is choosing an option that's in the current zone districts outside of a rezone. The few options are noted into the staff evaluation, and I really can't think of another option to bring, but I can get with the Hammackers and see if they are, is there a primary use that can go to that building to get the professional childcare as an accessory primary use or permitted use to it.
could they put a
That-
snow cone shack? No, I mean, well, I guess. probably
Well,
not.
that
That's
was
not-
in the
That's not in the
commercial
R2
district.
zone, that's in the
Right.
commercial.
Mhm.
But then it would be
Yeah.
permitted in the,
And the kids would be skipping school.
Mhm.
So,
that's why you put an 8-foot fence up there, then, I don't know, but,
With barbed wires.
so
in
you
this,
say, Tony, the planning commission had a public hearing about this? Is
They
that
did.
correct? So, and they voted to recommend approval of that.
of changing the
changing
zone
the
and
zone.
then moving professional childcare through a follow-up
As a
application
permitted-
up
as
to
a
a permitted
permitted
use.
Okay.
So, there's conditional uses in that zone district as it is, and the single family is private schools. I mean, but it's the professional childcare definition is the professional childcare as it stands as a use has us all here tonight to
Well, and maybe
this
everyone gives
discussion.
their
I
opinion,
can
like
give
Craig
you-
said, and
I'd like to
see
give
where
you
it-
my 2 cents really quick. I'm not really in favor of rezoning. That's
Mhm.
number one. And actually, number 2 is about as high, but I'm just not in favor of the traffic flow that either gets added to that congested area. You try to get through there when schools start, and that's just almost a disaster. So I figured out how to get around that part of town, either early in the morning or when school's getting out. Because it's a busy place, a pinch point for sure. More traffic, I don't think helps.
70 to 80 rotations a day
Right.
seems like a great number. But
But
I don't
it's-
operate the
it's-
business.
It's
So,
a tiny amount compared to the school traffic that's already there. And
yeah.
At different times
And
of
it's gonna
day,
be
too,
largely,
so,
I
right.
think, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, that half hour, if I was a parent and you know that what's happening in that half hour, you're gonna decide to drop your child off a little bit earlier or make other arrangements. I don't know. I just think that's how it would work out, but yeah. Sorry.
Mhm.
That's my 2 cents.
That's understandable.
Okay.
Leland?
Mark
Yeah,
or
the
Leland?
traffic does concern me. And, you know, once you do something, it's hard to go backward if you find out that there's, you know, issues or, you know, things that come up that maybe you didn't see. So I think I would like to discuss it more and look at it more closely. And I wouldn't be ready to.
Okay, I'll get with the
Anything
Hammakers
final?
and that will bring us back all together on the first Thursday of August
Just
with an
one
ordinance.
quick question. When,
And
how confident are we
If
that
they
the
decide.
sale will go through with the LDS church to them? What's the confidence level in that?
They've accepted our offer.
They've accepted the
Mhm.
offer. Okay. I love the idea of that type of a school there. I think that would be great. I do have the same concerns with the traffic. I would like to revisit it. I'm not prepared to make a decision tonight on that, to rezone it to a commercial.
I do thank you all for your time. It was productive. It's what we needed. Well, as me representing the applicant needed to hear and understand. And if they have a desire to continue this forward as we planned with an ordinance, we will be to the next agenda.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
thank
you,
you.
Tony. All right, we're going to move to item 10B. Timothy Schmidt Planned Unit Development Consideration and Approval of a Concept Plan for a 4-lot, single-family dwelling planned unit development located at 182 North, 600 East. Tony, do you want to take
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so we had visited this PUD. This is our second time together as the city council. The first time, as if I remember right, the planning commission wasn't supportive of it. It came to the city council. The city council sent it back to the planning commission. The planning commission sent it back this time with a recommendation of approval. There was a couple cleanup items, and Timothy's here to speak to those. One of those items was the question of a dedicated open space. Before, they were all single-family lots, and then the discussion came up of providing an open space that was afforded to the private lots, but not shared open space by all the properties within the boundary of the development. That raised, they've taken that route and have provided a specific parcel number to an open space to the PUD. And they did some work getting up. I believe they changed the Hammerhead location as well to the development.
So I have a couple comments about that, the open space. I know in reading our code, our ordinances, I'm reading from, and maybe I should just ask the applicant, are you comfortable with that common space lot? Because our ordinance doesn't require that of a PUD that is not multifamily. So this is a single family PUD, and if they're comfortable and they want to move forward with that, I think that's okay. But section 1760.010 says a planned unit development allows some deviations from the concept plan and platting requirements of Title 16. These are usually seen as smaller lot sizes and greater density in exchange for open space, attractive building designs, and other amenities such as playgrounds, swimming pools, parks, and meeting facilities. So typically, you want to go smaller lots, and then you say, okay, we got to have open space because there's nowhere for, and it goes into multifamily housing. So that's in the purpose of the PUD ordinance. Under the concept plan contents of the PUD ordinance, it says a site plan showing the layout of all structures, playgrounds, parks, swimming pools, parking, and open space. It doesn't specify anywhere on the size or requirements. In section 1760.070, again, in the PUD ordinance, it says that the follows, let's see, B, sufficient public open spaces and amenities that will provide a safe, comfortable, and pleasant environment. So in the PUD ordinance, that is the extent of what it says about open space. And as I look at this whole proposed development, and in my, I guess this is just my opinion as a council member, sufficient public open space and amenities to provide safe, comfortable, and pleasant environment would be limited to the access road coming into the site, the drainage ways associated or in proximity to that access road that are common to addressing some of the water issues that are on multiple lots, and then the emergency, the turnaround area. To me, those items would meet the specification of our code for open space. You don't get into a minimum required open space unless you have single families. 1760.070 also addresses, it says PUDs with multifamily units are to follow the multifamily housing design standards requirements of 1730.070. And it's that part of our ordinance that requires a certain amount, which is actually 50%, which has latitude to increase or decrease that depending on the use. But that is not applicable to this development. And so based on this, they've provided that 1.18 acres, but I think that was a misunderstanding of how our code should be applied. I do have another concern with the location of the turnaround. They've pushed that farther to the east. I think that's, I'm just interpreting it that it was basically there to kind of tie in to the easterly part of the property where that common area was designated. But it creates some significant challenges for that turnaround. There's, I think if I remember, 25 feet of elevation difference as you get from kind of the where it starts to go steeper. There's I think 21 or 25 feet, but it's over a 15% slope, and that's going to get that to a manageable slope for emergency equipment. Which, Tony, I don't know if we have a limit on that, but 15% is not going to work for emergency turnaround on our fire apparatus vehicles there. You're going to have extensive retaining walls or very steep slopes, which you're not going to have snow storage area at the end of that. You just don't plow up a 15% slope and push all that snow up there. And so my recommendation would be to put that property back into the lots, move the hammerhead back down to the bottom of the hill where it's manageable, take the access for lots 3 and 4 off the ends of that hammerhead turnaround, and to where they incorporate the driveways. That keeps people from just parking trailers and everything in the emergency turnaround. The way, if you push it clear to the east and the driveways come off before then, that's a great spot to just store stuff that when you need it for an emergency it's all blocked off.
Mhm. The slopes for the fire truck is not to exceed 10% grade and then a 2% grade on the cross slope.
Okay,
That includes the hammerhead too.
includes the hammer. So that's gonna
Mhm.
that's gonna be, you're looking at about at least a 7 to 8 foot retaining wall around that whole hammerhead area there to accomplish that, which, you know, it's workable, but it's expensive and it disrupts the site.
And it kind of compounds the problem too with your snow. If you're building
Yeah.
a retaining wall around it, you really
Don't
don't
push
have
snow,
anywhere
yeah.
to go.
Absolutely. So, those are probably the main comments. I had several other red line comments, but you know, I don't know what other people feel, but if I was looking at this, and I just don't see a need for open space when you've got really nice large lots. And my thoughts were like, well, maybe that's something they want. They can put that in a pasture. They put a couple steers out there and they share the meat. I don't know what that looks like. So,
Mhm.
I think at one time, Kate and I were talking, and I know maybe you were even, I think it was in your office, and we were discussing access to the sewer line that's up above there, right? And by moving, and I'm not going against what you said, Craig, I understand, I agree with you, I'm totally in agreement. But I know maybe one of the reasons it was moved, a road up there was so we could get our access to sewer. And can you remember the discussion that you, Kate, and I were talking, and he said he wanted access at the point where the sewer went under the property there?
Yeah, it's accessible by easement, but having that, I think the new hammerhead went in over the sewer,
it's
Right,
over.
right,
Yeah.
that's
Which
what I'm
it's gonna-
saying. I
it's
think
gonna
that's the
uncover.
reason.
which it would
To get the
in.
grades that you're talking about,
Yeah,
your sewer line is going to be suspended up above the
Yeah.
pavement.
yeah.
So-
So, yeah, to get the access to it, by vehicle, this would get it to it, but in return, it looks like what it's doing is compounding potentially the depth of that
Sure.
sewer because of the slope. But yeah, anytime that when our staff or our public works staff needs access to utilities, I'm fully supportive of all that.
You know, I'm
And to get it
concerned about
to it.
emergency vehicles as well, because I think
Mhm.
if we ever have winter again and we were to have a lot of snow,
Mhm.
I think it would be difficult to get to lots 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I actually took a walk up there on the property, and then I went and talked to Tim one night. And when I went up there, I took some pictures, and it seemed like especially the properties to the south, there's a lot of wet area, and even though I know there's wet area actually all over the property. It seemed like I took a picture. It hadn't rained for a month, and there was muddy areas and all over. It seemed like not muddy, like it just was wet. You could tell it wasn't like the rest of
Stormwater.
my yard that's drying out like crazy. But I saw cattails,
Just not a
I saw
designated,
some
just
other,
the fringe of what ditch is.
weeds that
Mhm.
show that there's a lot of moisture
Marshy.
in the, yeah.
Mhm.
And I had one person comment that he's got a ditch that's full of water almost all the time. And if he crosses that ditch, it's soggy water there. And as I've thought about this a lot, I thought we got a pretty good slope on the east side of the property. And we've got a lot of water, and I'm just thinking, I reached out to an engineer and I said, hey, what do we do? Here, a potential hillside that's a lot of water. Now we're going to potentially disrupt it by putting footings and foundations and things like that. No, we're not going to do basements. That was discussed. But he suggested doing a geotech report / study, which really does core sampling of your water, your soil, checks your slope, finds out where your material is, and sees where your water's coming from, where's it going, what does that do to the rest of the land. That's one concern. I really have a concern with the water there.
Hmm.
But
Can I
maybe-
speak to that, Michael, real
Sure,
quick?
sure.
Our construction design standards in our city code, talking to each other together, our city engineer has requested them in the past and will probably where every home is going to be put.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a plus. The second thing I have is when I talked to Tim, I said, boy, I'd sure like to change this from a PUD to just a regular subdivision. I know our city ordinance allows anything larger than 2.5 acres to go into a PUD. And it seems like we've got a lot of 2.5 acre pieces of property that's probably horse pasture or open space fields through our town. And I see a PUD as almost becoming a city of itself in a sense that I'm not saying you got a grocery store or anything like that, but instead of following our city standards, there's things that a PUD can do to mitigate or to reduce the cost. Maybe not making the roads as wide, maybe not doing a sidewalk, maybe not doing the curb and gutter. I'm just really not in favor, Tim. And like I think I told you, I'd really love to see you say, I'm going to change the concept to a subdivision, and I'd be all over it. I just don't like and I think the negative, I've been on the city council for 3 years, and it seems like in 3 years, we've had about 5 different times we've had PUD groups come in and say, hey, can you push the snow? Can you fix our water line? Can you take care of fixing the road? I think in the short term, it probably works okay, but down the road, it seems like the PUDs that are small like this need our help later on after some years. I'm not going to be on the city council all the time. Somebody else will be here in 10 years, but I don't know that I want to leave something for them to have to, I won't say clean up, but that's what it feels like. So to be honest with you, I'd really like you to push this to a regular subdivision. I'd be all over it. I'd be happy that if you could move in that direction. So that's my 2 cents.
I've got a couple of questions, and Tim, is it okay to have Tim come up? Can I ask him a couple of
Absolutely.
questions? Would you mind? Thank you. A couple of things I noticed, and it was in the same application when you brought it in the first time when it came in. So the applicant's name is Schmidt Planned Unit Development, but the name you have on your CCNRs is Vernon Hills. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yeah. that's
Okay.
fine.
So my understanding is the applicant's name has to match the declarations in the CCNRs. I think,
Okay, that's fine. We can change
yeah, I
it.
mean, it verifies ownership and legal standing and status. So, one, that has to be corrected.
Sure.
Go ahead, Craig.
I just said this, the CCNRs at the concept plan stage they're just, there's a sample example things.
Correct, but to get to the,
Similar to like the schematic images of the, the building elevations and things, those aren't the exact houses that would be put out there. Those are the materials or types of construction. And so at this stage, the CCNRs, if they wanted to pull one from a different development and say, this is kind of a typical or standard of some things that we would want, that would be appropriate. I mean, there's things in those CCNRs that are not applicable to this project, completely not applicable.
Correct.
And
But
so
at
it's-
some point down the
at some
road,
point,
before it
you're
goes any
absolutely
further,
correct.
those are going to have to come into alignment
Yes, you are
for legal
absolutely correct.
understanding. So I'm
Yes,
just
that is
mentioning that
correct.
again, that's still outstanding.
Yeah, my understanding is it wasn't an issue right now because later on you get into the details.
It would have to be,
Because
yeah.
right now it's just the concept, like, hey, here's an idea, let's get it approved.
Correct. Here's my second question to you. I read several times in here, and by the concept plan here, there's 5 lots, 4 buildable, 1 common space. So a number of times through here, you've mentioned when it comes to voting, that each lot has 1 vote in the PUD, and total expenses would be divided 5 ways. So with 4 buildable lots, clearly the open space can't vote and can't pay.
Mhm.
So how do you reconcile that?
I would be in that development. So I would be in that HOA.
Okay, how are you in the HOA when you're not part of the platted HOA?
Well, it would be part of the plotted HOA.
So this is not accurate.
Well, actually.
Well, it's actually in the parcel. It's actually in the development. It's just a separate lot number. So it's actually not divided currently.
So would your home be part of the PUD?
Correct. It would be going forward.
Can I address that, Mayor? Just
Go
explain.
ahead, Craig.
Yeah,
explain
go-
the-
yeah,
Explain
but-
PUDs.
Yeah, that'd be great.
and that.
Go ahead. That would help.
So in any planned unit development, in this situation is the applicant or the owner, Tim Schmidt, or whatever he wants to call it, LLC or Tim, anyway. In any PUD, the developer is part of the PUD. If it's a multifamily housing or whatever, the developer starts out as the PUD, as basically has 100% of it because there's no homes existing in that development until it's built out. So when it's
Mhm.
first set up, the developer is always part of that. Most PUDs, the developer doesn't want to be there and maintain and be part of that in perpetuity. And so there's usually in the CCNRs, in a development plan, at some point, the developer entity usually exits out of that. But initially, up until it's usually like 70 or 80% filled out, the developer is always an entity and usually has a majority vote in that planned unit development because they have a vested interest to make sure that things that are going in there aren't changed.
As it's being
that
developed.
It's being developed.
But once it's
But once
recorded,
it's done, it's still up to the developer whether or not they want to exit out.
So when they exit out, then they turn it over to the HOA.
And is that your intent, or is your intent to stay part of
So,
the PUD?
Just stay
if I
part of the
may,
PUD.
Yes,
just
because
ask a
that's
que-
different.
I'm
Sorry,
sorry, go
Mayor,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I was just saying, the intent though is to not exit out once development is finished.
Correct, which is fine.
Yeah,
Which is
that's
fine.
the intent. Yeah.
And if at some point Tim, as the developer, part of that, decides that he wants to move or leave or something, then at that point, the HOA could look at adjusting their bylaws to either take out whoever buys his current lot that's not part of the PUD. They could make a decision on whether, basically to let him either, actually, he could move and he could still be part of the HOA. Doesn't have to be that he's living there, but the PUD,
Well, he'd have to have
the
ownership
HOA,
in it.
not if it's written into the bylaws. As a developer, he can stay there indefinitely. It could be written into that. If they want to say, we have a vested interest in this and we want to share in these costs, there's nothing that requires them to exit out.
Okay, well, here's what I've read. So tell me then, it says a home outside the recorded plat is generally not a member of the PUD if a house is not included on the recorded subdivision plat and is not subject to the recorded declaration. It normally is not an owner of an interest in the common area, is not obligated to pay HOA assessments, and does not receive voting rights in the association. And you would have to, the only exceptions would be if it was later annexed into the PUD through an amended or recorded declaration, if the CCNR specifically make that property a member of the association, or there's a recorded agreement granting membership and voting rights.
Correct. It doesn't,
Okay.
it still doesn't include, it says generally and normally, but if he's living right next to that and he has a vested interest in it, he can be part of that if it's in the CCNRs and in the bylaws of the homeowners
Oh,
association.
correct, if it's in, but it's not currently in the CCNRs.
Right, but the CCNRs are in very concept form.
Okay.
That would be my
Well,
answer to that.
and I understand, but we have to take what's in front of us, do we not? I mean, we can't assume that at some point that will be put in. I mean,
That's
we're
correct, but
going off of
we're-
what's.
We're only looking at the concept plan of the PUD layout, and so those things would be addressed before, part of the next process is looking at a preliminary plat,
Mhm,
at the final plat and construction documents.
mhm.
And at that stage, at final plat is when the CCNRs are approved.
Mhm, And
And
recorded.
so, yeah, so there's still a lot of adjustment on that to happen.
Right,
And
So-
it
so-
does need to happen. You're absolutely right.
okay.
It does need to happen.
So that was my confusion, is you kept referencing 5 in a division, but only 4 buildable and 1 open space.
Gotcha.
I mean, nowhere in there did I see that your home and this property was part of the PUD.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Let
Understandable.
me ask another question with regard to liability. Let's say that in 3 years, you decide that, you want to get out of the PUD, and so you turn it over to an HOA. And in year 5, let's say a major sinkhole swallows up one of the homes, and they find that it was due to, soil that hadn't been tested, and you were sitting on a void anyway that should have been detected. Who takes ownership of that?
Let's ask of the lawyer.
I'd have to look that one up. I don't.
No,
I don't know.
does it come back to the developer, or does the HOA own it?
Well, if we get a geotech out there, that should answer all those questions, and then solve that.
Well, I'm just, it could be a
was-
number of things, but that's the question I always have wrestled with PUD, just because I've had experience with that very thing.
Mm.
And, at the end of the day, the developer says, well, I don't own it anymore. And the statute of limitations in the state of Utah is 7 years. I think maybe it's less than that. Is it 5 years? It's 5 years. And, there's always that concern to me that I think, I think there's a liability question that comes in of ownership on, down the road, if there's a major problem, nobody has ownership on it anymore, and it comes back on Hiram City.
No, it wouldn't come back to
I
the
don't-
city.
Well-
With a PUD, it would come back to Hiram
Come back
City?
on the HOA, which
On the
is, the HOA, not Hiram City, but I look at it and say, to me, I think there's some real questions that need to be answered there that I don't have them.
And those are
Sure.
valid concern. I mean, but those same concerns are dealt with every single day on a home that's built by a contractor, and pretty soon you have settlement. My sidewalk settles, my roof starts sagging, or they didn't put columns in right, or the footings aren't right, and so those exact same things are out there every day. As far as, does the contractor or a previous owner that didn't disclose something?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
those are real concerns, and not just to homeowners or HOAs, but the city as well. Whenever we have a construction project or a street project and things like that,
Well, I'm just
Those are
saying,
very
you get
valid.
down the road 2 years and you decide to sell it, and there's problems that come up. Well, you don't own it, the HOA owns it, and yet you were the developer, you hold no liability any longer. I don't know, I guess I'm not a big fan of PUDs personally, and that, especially on small lots. I think
Well,
there needs
and-
to be something written differently.
Sorry, Mayor. And Tony, I mean, since this has come up and seems to be coming up more, I mean, can we revisit our PUD ordinance? I think it's fairly ambiguous in places with this.
Thank you, Tim.
Just one quick question, Tim. Is there a reason why you're going PUD versus what Michael was saying? Is there an advantage over one over the
One
other?
of the things is, again, we talked about sidewalk, and PUD is the way to get around that, whereas subdivision requires it.
Okay.
However, in a single family development, it's actually not required. It's only in multifamily. So I've asked for an exception to, exclude the sidewalk. And we can turn it into a subdivision if you want, if we can get the sidewalk excluded.
Well, frankly, the city doesn't want this street as a public street.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've talked to Kate and
Well,
he's okay
That
if we
one's
make
back
some
and forth too.
changes.
I guess my personal feeling is we already have easements for the utilities. We can already access our utilities and things. Why would the city want to have to plow snow plowing, you don't like these kinds of turnarounds.
Okay. I'm glad you asked because I
It's
don't
just-
like it
it's a lot-
either.
It's a lot of street for the city to maintain that is never going to be extended or serve more than these 4 parcels. And so I don't see why the city would be at all interested in having this as a public street.
I talked to Kate and I said, with a hammerhead, what do you think? And he doesn't want to plow it. And I totally agree. But I said, what if we had a cul-de-sac or a roundabout at the top there or in one of the lots? So a truck can come in, make the roundabout, the road's wide enough, and you're out in 3 minutes. And he
Okay.
said, that would work perfect.
But every 5 to 7 years, you have to come in and put a slurry seal or chip seal on that road.
Okay.
For access to 4 homes. And if you put a cul-de-sac, it's about 4 times as much asphalt then that you have to be maintaining and managing.
I think
That's
it,
my thoughts.
I think it lends itself to
Stop.
getting emergency vehicles in there, lends itself to getting garbage transportation in and out. I think I took something to Tony and to Kate and I said, hey, what's your thoughts? And I think I got pretty positive response from both of those. Maybe you have different opinion now, but Kate was like, I'd plow that. That turns it into a subdivision that becomes a city road. And it's doable and it gets him access to the sewer line. I don't know. I just don't like PUDs.
Okay, so let's go back to Rebecca's question. Thank you. You want to go ahead and
Yeah,
be seated?
if you want to, get the road back as a city, some of the exceptions I would ask for is a smaller, not so wide road. And the exception to have it closer to 600, which was an issue because of the 125-foot rule to the center of the bulb. And so that's another reason why the PUD was kind of pushing towards that. So if I can get exceptions on the subdivision side of things,
Well,
we can go forward with that too.
I think we'd address those maybe after we see some plans or something to that end. But I think the question is on the table right now. And if you want to submit, some reiteration on your plans, I think you're certainly free to do that. But I think you're getting a sense of kind of how the council feels here about that. And we're torn a little bit, but I would like to maybe have Tony answer Rebecca's question, but if you wouldn't mind
Okay.
being
Sure.
seated, thank you,
Yeah.
Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
So it's staff's goal when an applicant comes to the city for direction and land use and land use requests, where they're at, where they're doing them. Sometimes we don't always have that direction, but we have the tools and we have the ordinance to go to begin that guidance. And we could see that happened earlier with the application before, is we have a resident in town that's looking to make an improvement in town. And with this property and this is our fourth meeting on his application. There's the PUD ordinance. I heard some stuff tonight. I've heard it since this application came in. It might be best to, for one, dive back into the PUD ordinance.
I agree.
Let's go to it and understand it better, get it in a position where we have an opportunity to take the discussion we had tonight in the previous 3 meetings that we had with Tim, because I feel that it could use some cleanup, because how the open space requirement even started. Craig brought it to light, and it was very clear. Craig brought it up that these open space requirements are only required when there's a multifamily development. This is a single family development, and then there is open space is a criteria commission's requirement to review, but maybe we should include some language to that, so the planning commission, staff, and even the council, we can add some guidance to that, include some guidance to that code. And I'm hearing if 2.5 acres is too small, a qualifier should be a greater number. We should probably start looking into that immediately, because we could have been in a different position with this one. And if a PUD fits for this, or the subdivision ordinance fits for it, is there a way that we could clarify that in a PUD ordinance? That we only know if we try.
Right.
And with the subdivision, I heard the neighborhood say with the road, they have just an asphalt roadway in their neighborhood, their immediate neighborhood. They said to the public hearing that they appreciated that a subdivision road didn't go up that hill with the impact of the sidewalks all the way around it. But this subdivision code is requiring that sidewalk, and there's nothing written in that code for a variation. Could it be that a PUD could use some work, or do we need to look at the subdivision code as well to resolve what we're hearing from the neighborhood and from the applicant, some confusion on the open space requirement? If those lots are big enough, in a big enough area, and they provide that open space, does it have to be a dedicated common space or not versus multi and single family housing? I think we could clear a lot of that up in our ordinance.
So I agreed. And I mean, it's not on the agenda, so I can't make a motion, but can I make a recommendation that we revisit our PUD ordinance and
We can do that.
dive into that?
We
Okay.
can do that.
We can always do that, but this application is not ethically right or legally right. We can't hold this application up.
No, and I'm
Yeah.
not suggesting that we do that. Yeah.
This
Yeah,
application's been submitted and processed and accepted.
Mayor,
Yeah,
before I make a motion, can I ask the applicant a question?
Sure.
With respect to the open space, that lot number 5 or whatever, would it be your preference to divide that back into the lots and either revisit a regular subdivision or a smaller open space area?
Yes, yeah. It's only there for the requirement.
Mayor, I make a motion to continue the Timothy Schmidt planned unit development to a subsequent meeting after the applicant has had the opportunity to adjust the plans based on some of the discussion today.
I'll second that.
But what are you saying to push this? We're basically voting.
To not
that
take
this-
any action. We're not taking any
No action, but it's to basically push him in the direction of a PUD.
I didn't say that. I just
Oh.
said to let them
That's
go
okay.
back and and make adjustments to the plan. I mean, I've already made my opinion on the PUD versus the subdivision clear, but that wasn't part of the motion. It's just to
Okay.
take no action on this and let them go forward, make changes and bring it back to the council at the earliest possible next meeting or whenever they would choose to do that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we all understand the motion, first of all? We all understand? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Actually, I'm going to change my vote. You know what? I'm just going to abstain. So, if that's possible, I really have a bad taste in my mouth for moving it forward that way. But so can I just abstain and not vote?
Okay. Does that call for a revote? Are we good? All right. Okay, Tony, it sounds like you got your work cut out for you.
I'm glad to do it for you.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
All right.
Sean.
Let's go to item 10C, Sean Bushman. Connect Transit to provide an update and discuss progress of Connect Transit in Cache Valley. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. And this is a long meeting. We're going to be brief and moving.
We're not
So-
used to brief, so go ahead and
Oh,
drag it
yeah,
out.
yeah. So I'm going to introduce. So I've been a representative for Hiram City on the Board of Trustees for Cache Valley Transit, now Connect Transit, for over 20 years.
Wow.
Recently, we changed the board to make it smaller, more functional, and I've moved to the county representative. The Hiram representative is Leanne Hansen, and she's going to give the brief presentation here. I wanted to introduce her, but I'm still on the board and we work together. And so, yeah, we'll have Leanne go.
Great.
I'm shorter.
Would you state your name again, please?
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Sean. It's great to be here and to meet you guys. As Sean said, my name's Leanne Hansen, and I live in Millville, but I represent Hiram and Millville and Nibley now with the board restructure, as Sean was saying. So, and I'm currently the board chair for the last year and a half or so, and I've served on the board for about 8 years. And I used to be a driver, and I drove back when it was the Cache Valley South route, which is now the Route 12 route, but I used to drive out to Hiram, and it's beautiful out here. I love it. I've asked Todd Butler, the CEO, to come, and if you guys have any like technical questions, Todd's an expert.
I'm
so.
thinking of some.
Okay, sounds good. But as we said, we wanted to give an update and tell you a little bit about Connect and the good things that we're working on. I don't know if any of you guys ride the bus regularly, but I just wanted to share kind of some of the service that we provide. Connect Transit provides fare free. You can ride the bus for free, which is wonderful. And we've got kind of a hybrid system as we're trying to meet growing Cache Valley needs. And so we have fixed routes. Route 12 is a fixed route, and that runs from the transit center in Logan to Hiram. And we've increased frequency. We're now every half hour. Used to be, I mean, when I drove, it was like an hour and a half long route. So, but they've got buses every half hour leaving Logan, coming out to Hiram to meet that need. It's great. It used to be an hour, now a half hour. And did we give them the handouts? Okay, great. So on that handout, you can see kind of a heat map for like it shows, that heavy activity in the morning and in the afternoon on one side, and then just all the stops along the way. And I mean, some of them, we've going out to JBS, the meat packing, you've got over 3,000 people writing on that. And then out to like South Cache, 4,600 people. So this shows all the stops at the top. It shows all the stops in Hiram, and then all the stops on that Route 12. So yeah, okay. So we've got fixed routes. Those are the big buses that you see driving around. Kind of in Logan, from Walmart to Walmart and up to the university, we have a loop system, and so we've got buses just driving in both directions on that loop. And then just in the last couple of years, we've started microtransit. So we took fixed routes off of Millville and Providence and River Heights, and we're doing something totally different. We're doing microtransit, and that's when you'll see Pool, loop backward, kind of a fun play on that. But this is a ride sharing program, and that's been great. And so anywhere within Millville, Providence, River Heights, you can get anywhere. We've got like double the amount of stops now, and they also go to the transit center. So that's been really great. And we've seen a lot of increase in ridership with that. We also have a call a ride service, and this is really great. This is for members of our community who have disabilities that prevent them from riding the fixed routes. And there is an application process for that. And the Connect employees, they're so fantastic to work with. They can help anyone with that. But that call a ride service is wonderful, and it's a smaller paratransit van, and they can take people to the hospital, to the store, just gets them much closer to the curb and makes it more accessible.
If I could.
Yeah, go for it.
So my son takes advantage of that.
Okay.
We absolutely love it. And he would not be able to function without that service. So from my wife's and my point of view, and our thank you sincere, because to your point, it's a great service, and it's wonderful. So thank you. I'm a witness of that.
Oh, that's wonderful. We love stories like that. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing
Thank you
that.
for doing it.
So we're always looking for ways, how can we meet growing community needs? What else can we, be involved in and doing? Right now we're always trying to be proactive. Right now the board is working with a consultant. We've got a planning study going on. And, so with this planning study, we've reached out to the public, with a survey, and we had over 600 responders to that survey. So some of the things we're looking at: expanding service. We saw a desire for later evening service and more Saturday service, and then just more frequent service on specific routes. So this planning consultant that we're working with and management, they're going to be developing scenarios, and then we'll seek public input on those scenarios in like September or October. So the board's working on that, and then from the results of that, we will really determine kind of our next goal and projects that we're going to work on. So that's what Connect Transit's up to right now, and wanted to share that. Do you guys have any questions?
Really technical, not so technical. For the last forever, I think this has been a free fare, or it's not a paid fare transit system. Do you foresee that continuing, or at some point is this going to have to transition to a paid fare
Mhm.
type approach, or any input on that or background on what we would see going forward in the future,
Mhm.
next 10, 15 years or whenever.
That's a great question. From what I have learned, the fare free works fantastic. And it is even better than fare, when you have to pay for it. So I don't know, Todd, what do you think? Because he's really got more.
I think that's a policy decision for the board to determine.
That's true too.
But, we've done research on that. We've done various studies. And I think what's great is what the original purpose was founded for was to help people that were disadvantaged in our community, whether that's economically or whether that's from disability or whatnot. And really zero fare, because it's not free. I always am very clear about that. We're all paying taxes, right?
Well,
That's true. I shouldn't have said
We
free.
just don't pay a fare on
It's
the
zero
bus.
fare.
That's
Yeah.
thank you
Zero
for
fare system
clarifying
for a
that.
community our size really actually is an economic generator because it gets people to work. It
Yeah.
gets people to education, which then they become employees. And so we can see that typically, system our size, there's about a $5 return on that dollar investment in transit. And we give people mobility, quality of life. And so I think it just is one of the values we've heard from our communities that we serve as we do these surveys. That's part of what we seek out. We've done fare analysis. We've also had public hearings on should we charge a fare. And overwhelmingly, at this point, it's been, no, keep it the way it
Keep it
is.
the way
We
it is.
value that. So I would say as the community continues to value that, we'll continue to operate within the budget that we have being zero fare. If that changes, then we're willing to look at that because really we're here to serve the communities we serve and the citizens.
Thank you. So at this point, you're able to do as much as the community will support as zero fare. Thank you for clarifying that. You're right, it's not free. I mean,
Yeah.
We're funded with
Yeah,
the sales
that's good.
tax, and so as sales tax grows, but that's one of the things I like, that we're funded with sales tax because as community grows, a lot of times the sales tax is growing as well. And so at least at this point, we've been able to meet the
meet that.
demand with that growth, but we are growing fast. And so what we're looking at is, we're hoping to come to the communities later with, here's what we can provide at the current level of service and whatnot. If you want a higher level of service, here's some projects that would be a higher level of service, but it might take a higher level of investment.
you guys have to deal with that too?
So what percent of your buses are electric and gas? Or are they diesel? What's your power source?
Not electric. We are not currently electric. So diesel and gas. So,
You-
they all are. So we have looked at green electric and things, but the board decided not yet. So technology's not quite there yet. So
Well, I teach classes in my home for the homeschool community, and my students use the bus all the time. I have a stop right across the street from my house, and
great.
so they ride the bus all the time. So I know they appreciate it a lot.
oh, that's wonderful. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Every half hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I just started in August.
You
Yeah.
started a year ago, huh? That's great.
And the ridership's keeping up with it.
Mhm.
That's great. Thank you for what you do. We appreciate the service very much.
Well, thank you guys so much.
All right. Appreciate that report. Let's move on to 11A, Resolution 26-3. A resolution setting sewer service rates. Dan, are you taking that, please?
Take that one, yes. In May, we basically adjusted the resolution so we would allow a meter on our sewer lines. But we want to also provide an additional opportunity for us to, whenever the culinary water use is not an accurate portrayal of the sewer being used and a meter is not there, we could use an engineered estimate as well. So that's basically what this is doing. And it says that we'll be using an engineered estimate. And then because estimates aren't always accurate, there's a 20% surcharge applied to that as well. So whatever we have the engineered estimate that is given to us from the customer, that would be approved by the mayor. And and then the 20% surcharge will be added to that.
That's only if a meter is not installed.
It's only if a
correct?
meter's not installed, correct?
Couple
Is-
questions.
Sure.
Oh, Go ahead.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Is there a reason why meters aren't installed? I mean, I've got a meter in my house and I'm required to have one. Is
So
there
this is
reason?
a meter for sewer.
You don't have a sewer meter.
Well, not a sewer meter,
And so
sorry.
there are certain situations in any commercial entity that might require that their sewer and water are not related.
Okay.
And so normally what we would do is we meter their water and then that we assume that amount of water goes into the sewer and then we base the sewer charge off of how much their culinary water is being used. In certain situations, that's not accurate.
And really that could go either way.
Either way,
I
yes,
mean,
definitely.
You know, there's JD, the dairy, or West Point Dairies was one. Then you also have the commercial, truck wash, which uses more water washing trailers and things, but, there's probably a substantial amount of that water that goes out into evaporation ponds or not back into the sewer system. So, and realistically, this could, you know, if I was that entity, I would probably be saying, I don't want my sewer rates based on my water
Right,
use.
yeah,
And so
makes
it
perfect
could,
sense, yeah.
ideally could work.
Either way.
Either way, it's a
Yeah.
reasonable request. I have a question just on, you know, this uses a 3-month time frame, and I understand, especially larger commercial entities where a meter may be appropriate. What is the time frame that they're, you know, they'll be looking at? Obviously, I think this is West Point Dairy being a major component here. Have they discussed with you or Angela a time frame that might take to get their processes and approvals in place for that? I'm just wondering. if
So
there's-
actually, this was written because the meter wasn't working at West Point Dairy. So we were wanting another opportunity and way to we could charge them for sewer that wasn't based on culinary. They currently do have the meter in place and we do have data coming from that meter and it is it looks accurate so far. So
Okay.
we're
So this
requesting
is
that.
just as a,
But this would
in
be
case that
something in
happens.
case we have another situation that comes up where we have another opportunity. We don't have to come to we don't have to come
Just
for an ordinance.
preventative for
okay.
future
So-
situations.
From my simple mind, JD, maybe you can help and answer this. How do you calibrate that meter? What's the process? Is that a state agency that calibrates it so that when it runs, please come to the podium. So when that runs, how do we know that what is going is accurate? It's certainly not up to West Point to determine if it's accurate, and it's
Correct.
certainly not up to Hiram to determine if it's accurate.
The manufacturer has certified field reps that come out and put an external sonic check meter on the same pipe and make sure they match. The meter we installed is certified from the factory, but it has to be verified in the field after install because they're very installation sensitive. Third one, yes. And this is the second or third way we have changed the configuration of this meter to make it work.
make it
But
calibrate.
we finally got our bingo.
And it's been calibrated?
Yes, it's factory certified. And it has to be field verified by a certified field technician that says, yes, this install is working.
And that's happened already.
And it's happened. Yes, sir.
So Dan, what are we asking then as far as you're saying here?
So this ordinance is just for possible future use at this point because their meter is working now. And we hope that it's going to continue to work. We're going to use their meter. But in the future, if a meter is not available and the culinary water and sewer aren't matching up, that we could use an engineered estimate to calculate the sewer discharge.
Plus
So
a
this
20%.
particular situation is resolved. This is just to prevent the same thing happening somewhere else.
Correct.
Okay.
So a question, Dan, approved by the mayor, why that as opposed by the city engineer? Seems like that would be something as typically in our ordinance, we would see that by this. I mean, I'm assuming that the mayor would say, turn it over to the engineer and say, is this good to approve? But most situations that are of this type of caliber or this type of request, our ordinance has one of those city engineer
you know, we're not sold on the mayor or this. I mean, it can be city engineer, it'll be
I
fine
just
for
was
us.
asking
Yeah.
if there was a particular. Okay.
That's just what it was chosen when we wrote it up to be
Okay.
approved by the mayor.
And I have one other question, or actually, I think a recommended change. Right after that, it says a surcharge of 20% shall be, I don't have any other questions, JD. I don't know if you want to just
Thank you,
stand there.
JD.
A surcharge of 20% shall be applied to the calculated sewer rate until a fully functional, approved, and calibrated meter is installed. I think that should say, instead of a calculated sewer rate, a calculated effluent quantity, because how are you going to do a calculated rate when that rate is going to vary substantially throughout a day or whatever? I mean, you might, I mean, you don't, I don't think our objective is not necessarily to get a rate.
That's a good
It's to
catch.
get
That's
a
correct, yes.
quantity. And so, I guess I would suggest that change. And was that something you would?
Yeah, I agree with
support?
that. Yeah, that's a good
Okay.
catch.
Okay. Mayor, I make a resolution to approve Resolution 26-23, a resolution setting sewer service rates with the following amendments. That the changes read, if a meter is not installed at the request of the city within the 3 months' time, an engineered strike-based, an engineered estimate approved by the city engineer shall be required. A surcharge of 20% shall be applied to the calculated effluent quantity. So strike sewer rate and replace with effluent quantity until a fully functional, approved, and calibrated effluent meter is installed and verified.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, so Dan, you're currently acting as the city engineer, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I'm not opposed to the city engineer. I'm just thinking approved, something to the effect approved in consultation with the mayor. I think the mayor should be involved in this decision. Now, maybe that happens regardless, Dan. Maybe you look at it and you go to the mayor, so maybe it's not necessary, but I think there should be a review. Dan brings it to somebody and there's a discussion about it as opposed to just, yeah, this is going to happen. I would rather see something like that take place.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I guess how I would envision this is it's, first of all, where a meter would be installed, that discussion goes through the
Dan,
city engineer, goes through Angela as a reclamation plant manager. It goes through the Public Works Department generally, if Cade is involved in that. It goes through the Public Works staff meetings. And so there's a lot of discussion that goes into that whole process already. So I'm just saying and usually these types of things consistent throughout our ordinance where it's related to Public Works, it references the city engineer. That's all. I
think
don't
you
care
could,
either way.
I think you could word that such that, after discussion, final approval through the city engineer and mayor.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
okay.
Yeah, your explanation was good. Yeah.
Okay, but you have to make an amended
Oh,
motion now.
brother.
I want to change that.
You're the best at making amendments, Craig. Why don't you take what I said and put it in there? You don't want to, though, do you?
I don't care. It's not addressed that way elsewhere, but that's how it actually works throughout our code. But if
Yeah.
you want to specify it here, I don't care.
Give it a go, Mark.
Let me rephrase this. As long as it reflects what you said, Craig, I am good with the city engineer. If that's the process.
That's how it happens. That's the process.
No,
that
I just
the
want to
city
make sure that
operates.
that's,
And
yeah.
it's a valid point because we don't want a bubble on these types of things in the city. And so, again, it's, the water reclamation plant is the one that's going to identify these things in most situations. That's where it's going to originate. But
How about,
I don't see it happening in a bubble.
yeah, how about we do this? Take Craig's amendment and then approval with the city engineer and mayor shall be required.
Okay, I'll accept that amendment to the motion.
Okay, we have an amended motion. Do we need to have another second?
I think that was part of
I
the
did.
second.
Part of the second?
Your second.
All
You
right.
seconded.
No, I did the
You
first
second.
time, yeah.
Yeah,
I
do you
seconded
accept that
I
amendment?
accept that amendment.
All right, let's vote on
Let's
that.
vote.
Councilmember Folger,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson Michael,
Aye.
Councilmember Nayland,
Aye.
Councilmember Rasmussen,
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Okay, let's move on to item 11B, ordinance 26-14, an ordinance amending section 13.04.390, extension of water mains outside of city limits of Title 13 of the Hiram City Municipal Code to further prohibit culinary water extensions or connections outside of city limits. Dan, do you want to take that?
Sure. So this ordinance basically replaces the previous provision we had. It is designed to make sure that we're not allowing connections outside of the city limits, because that puts an unfair burden upon the Hiram City residents who are providing their water rights whenever they are in the city. So,
And my understanding is it's also a protection for those up the canyon, cabins and things.
That is
from
correct.
drinking to water that is not properly chlorinated and.
that is correct,
problem.
yes. Yeah, we have some cabin properties up there or camping properties up there that have connections, and that's kind of a danger because it's not treated water at that point.
Okay, any discussion?
Just to clarify, the existing connections up there are not going to be taken off the line or off the system, but it
No.
will basically
That's
just
correct.
Grandfather.
strengthen our stand, what the city has already kind of established as far as utility service connections outside of the city, excepting for the conditions that are noted in the ordinance.
That is correct.
So I move to approve ordinance 26-14, amending section 13.04.390 of the Hiram City Municipal Code to further restrict the extension of culinary water mains and new water service connections outside Hiram city limits.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, let's vote on that. Council Member Folger,
Aye.
Council Member Michael,
Aye.
Council Member Nayland,
Aye.
Council Member Rasmussen,
Aye.
Council Member Wright.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Let's go to other business in 12A, consideration and award of bid for East Park sidewalk. Dan, do you have that?
This is the new ADA compliant sidewalk at East Park. It's one feeding the baseball fields, one feeding the playground next to the tennis courts. And we recommend Juniper Earthworks.
Okay, are we all familiar with where that's at? Everyone?
I actually didn't know, and I called and asked Ned if he could provide a map, and he was going to try to show me. We talked about it on the phone, but I said, boy, it'd sure be nice if we had where the East Park was. Did he ever get anything to you with that?
Did you meant to you?
But I think it might have been in the RFP, the original one, so.
Yeah, we didn't see that.
It's
so.
probably more Cade than Ned.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is Cade's project.
Okay, it's okay. He said it was through the park, but they did talk about sharing sidewalk costs and stuff like that.
We'll get that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I just wasn't quite sure, and he just shared that with me, and I said, oh, if you could get us a map, that would make it really nice, because I think it's after he discussed it, I'm like, that's a great place to put a sidewalk for people that,
If they want to come to the baseball game.
yeah,
they'll have-
especially if they've got kids on in some kind of with a disability, or somebody needs access from a wheelchair or something like that.
I've
Yeah,
had
the
numerous
strollers.
calls from individuals that have asked for a sidewalk there. And so
Good thing.
that'll be a real blessing for the city to get that in, so.
So in this case, we got 4 bids and Juniper was the low bid.
And can I ask why was that based solely on price or were there other considering factors?
I believe we've done work with Juniper before and we've been pleased with their work before, so there was no concerns.
Yeah, they met all the requirements. It was low bid. And yeah, Juniper has had done other couple jobs.
Just done work. Okay. Thank you.
Satisfactory.
Well, I would like to make a motion to approve consideration and award of bids for East Park sidewalks to Juniper Earthworks for $60,816.25.
I'll second
I
that.
thought it was here.
Juniper Earthworks.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got you.
Okay, motion a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's go to 12B, consideration and appointment of a full-time Hiram City Fire Chief. Recommendation to appoint Tony Stoffer as the fire chief. Dan, you have comments on that?
I sure do. So on June 18th, we approved the budget for the fire department to move them towards a full-time, from a volunteer fire department to a full-time fire department. And so we set the salary range during that time frame, and Tony Stoffer has been the fire chief for our fire department. He's currently appointed by this council as the fire chief. Nowhere in his appointment does it say he's the chief of the volunteer fire department. He's just the chief of the Hiram Fire Department. So this resolution is really just to acknowledge that he's going to continue to be the chief of our fire department as we move to a full-time fire department. And in our city code 2-2.16010, there is the word volunteer in there that talks about how the Hiram Fire Department will be known as the Hiram Volunteer Fire Department, and I recommend that we strike that word volunteer.
Okay, and this really lends itself really to our trajectory of bringing ambulance service into Hiram, run by Hiram City. And so this is one of the key steps in moving in that direction.
Definitely.
And so this is progress, in my opinion. This is a wonderful move that I think lends itself very well to that initiative and that effort. So thank you, and thank you, Tony Stoffer, for all you do. But we'll vote on it. It may not pass, but let's vote on it. Do we have a motion?
Well, I just
Go ahead.
question. So one thing that would help me being new on the council is understanding the positions that are appointed and then the positions that where we do an actual interview for. And this doesn't have anything to do with Tony. This is for my benefit, is because we're making this distinction here. I just need to understand for my own benefit where appointments come into view and then where we go for, like the city engineering, we're interviewing for people there. That's all. That's a request for me personally to understand that process. And we don't have to do it now. I just need to understand that process going forward.
It's a great question. Luke, do you want to answer that? You or Tony, as far as the fire department is concerned? I think we're talking about, what has to be appointed and what do we maintain as volunteer?
Well,
Are you?
I think he's talking just general
So,
appointments.
The positions appointed by state law is your city engineer, city recorder, city treasurer,
Oh,
a city administrator, and a fire chief. We would normally have an interview for those, and if there was a position that was available. Our city code didn't state that we had to have a formal, a new appointment. Like, we serve until you guys basically throw us out, decide that you don't want us to serve any longer or we retire. So what our code, it didn't say that we had to,
But for a matter of transparency, just that recognition that you weren't going to appoint him as a full-time compared to when he was a volunteer. Because we weren't changing that position and we didn't have to hire for that position because we're just changing him from a volunteer to a full-time. That's why it didn't go through like a noticing process or an open, like an interview process. And that's you guys' decision. If you don't feel comfortable and you want to change that appointment, then, to somebody, like you have that opportunity to change that appointment at any time. The appointment only stands until you guys decide to change that appointment.
Okay. No, that's very helpful. Thank you.
So yeah, it's interesting, the appointments.
Yeah.
And there's some positions that, like Stephanie's,
Yeah, there's
that
different.
she can't leave unless there's a replacement.
Ever.
Oh, that's so sweet. Most people say, when can you leave? Thanks, Craig.
No, she can't.
None of us are
So
saying
she might
that.
want to some days, but I'm sorry. She can't.
Yeah, sorry. That's a great question, Maud. Thanks for asking.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
explanation.
Is there further discussion on,
I just would like, I don't know that it's directly related. Oh, it is directly related to this position. There's Dan and the mayor, you guys and Tony have all been in a lot of meetings with the county. And I'm curious to know what the flavor is, what's happening with that. Is Tony or whoever, are they going to be a fire chief for Hiram City or a South County district? Or I think it's important that we understand kind of jumping from a volunteer fire department who serves Hiram City and contracts with a couple of other municipal entities that supports the county, or but is not the same as being fully responsible for the whole south end of the valley per se. So I'm just curious on what that transition might look like to a full-time position and future responsibilities or assignments.
another great question. Can I answer that? Will it be all right?
Please, one of you guys. Or
So
somebody.
you're absolutely right. There have been countless meetings with regard to where the fire situation is, who represents the fire station or the fire initiative in this county. We have made it very, very clear to the county that to the county executive, to the Cache County Fire District, we will make it very clear to them in our next meeting that if the county opts to adopt a unified fire district where they come in and take over the Hiram City Fire Department, that Hiram City, it's my opinion that we resign from the district, that we get out of the district, because we will maintain our identity and we will maintain our independence as far as helping other local and other communities and working independently. Our fire department is, bar none, I believe, the very best volunteer, and Wellsville runs a close second. But they do an incredible work that I don't think we fully understand the depth of training that they go through, the level of expertise that they have to have. And so right now, we're on board with the county executive, and I'll state that very openly, that he is very much in favor of Hiram keeping its identity, keeping, along with Wellsville and along with Paradise and along with Mendon, maintaining what we have and not bringing the county into it. And so that is the direction that we are pushing from Hiram City, and I believe that is the general consensus throughout the valley, if I'm not mistaken, from the independent municipalities that have their own assets. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. And so if I understand the process correctly, then it doesn't sound like the county is likely to pursue that. But if the county did decide to just proceed forward with a unified countywide district, Hiram City chooses to, I don't know, opt out, I don't know what the exact term is, but to withdraw from that district.
Correct.
if, for example, Millville wanted to have Hiram City provide service for them, they would then also have to take steps to withdraw officially, formally, or each community would have to take those same steps.
I
Is that
think
correct?
each community without fire asset, now you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think without fire asset has the ability to choose who they
would want to
who they have.
So they wouldn't have to go through the legal steps of.
No,
of
drawing from the
pulling out
district.
or whatever.
No.
Okay, all right. I just was
Is
curious.
that correct? Anyone here understand that? Let's go with it then.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
that's correct, Mayor.
Is that correct,
I think
Chief Brady?
If the board becomes a taxing entity, they assume responsibility for all of the area within the original established boundaries. And so then it would be up to the fire board as to whether they allowed another municipality to provide those services or not, or if they were going to provide them.
Okay, that makes it clear. Thank
The
you.
board would, the county fire board would have to, basically, they would make a decision on allowing somebody to withdraw. And if they wanted to, say, fight that or whatever that decision, then it would become a legal issue per se.
Withdrawal itself is a little bit more complex issue. There has
Correct.
to be a feasibility study done. That's going to go to the citizens of the municipality that are impacted by that. And if they pass it, then it passes. And if not, then. they
Yeah,
remain
but if they're
part of
not a taxing entity, the county board chooses whether or not to allow an entity to leave. Is that right? Is that how I understood that?
everybody's in by the 1965 statute that was created. And so then it's, if you want out entirely so that you're, I think I've heard the term a few times in the past, masters of our own destiny. That is the cleanest way to make that possible, is to withdraw or go through the process.
They'd have to
of
go through
withdrawal.
that same process.
Now, you can also go through the process of if the Cache County Fire District Board approves it, if a municipality is desiring to withdraw and the county fire board approves it, then it's a much quicker process than having to go through the legal, takes about a year. If if they don't approve it, you can legally go through that process, but it is time consuming.
Yeah,
Expensive. and-
they estimate 12 to 18 months. is
Right.
the timeframe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, Tony, are they here for something good for you? I mean, they've sat through this whole thing until you're the last one on the agenda. Are they here for you? Is that it, Tony, to make sure you get in? Yeah, I mean, I think that's a compliment to you, so.
Yeah, it is.
So I move to approve of the appointment of Tony Stoffer as full-time fire chief of Hiram City Fire Department.
I'll second that.
Is that what the agenda item is? Is that is it? Okay. I don't have it open anymore.
Okay, that's the consideration we have. Did we have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 12C, or budget report. This is what we've all been waiting for, so. Todd?
You got
Make
5
it
minutes,
good.
Todd.
5 minutes, perfect. I can do that. So this does conclude a full 12 months because of our budget year goes from July 1st to June 30th. It is unaudited, so there will
I
be.
hope the fire department's not out of money.
No, we adjusted theirs, and Tony was actually good. He said he's not spending anything in June, so and he stuck with it pretty good. So, but because it was worried me a little bit. But anyways, he took care of that. Made sure there wasn't a lot of spending in June, but yeah, I can't read it over there. But as you'll notice there, like the general fund reserves went down a little bit, but it's because we approved that adjustment to finish Libby Springs Park. So we transferred like $315,000 out of the general fund to the capital projects fund to finish Libby Springs Park. And yeah, hopefully they'll be done soon. The water situation is a little interesting there because it is a park and they did hydro seed and some sod and in the middle of summer. So hopefully it'll make it.
What he's saying very nicely is we're getting a lot of calls because we're watering during
Yes,
the
we're
day at
watering
Libby
during-
Springs,
yes.
which we've asked the residents not to do. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, if you get any complaints, just know we are conscious of it. It's just the contractor we hired
If a homeowner wanted to do
Nah.
that, I wouldn't care. I mean, that's life. Life has to go
on a
in
new,
some
on a
situations.
new
Yeah.
new lot. Yeah. Anyways.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's what's happening in the capital projects and the general fund. And I'm hoping my estimates we're on, but like I said, the numbers are unaudited, so there'll be year-end adjustments and stuff that moved back that were performed in June that we'll have to move back to June. Yeah, and then the sewer treatment and collection fund is doing awesome. The electric fund doing awesome too. We just did our deposit and investment. We submitted that to the state, and we have about an extra $4 million from 6 months ago, more than what we had 6 months ago. So, and a lot of that is due to the sewer and electric earning quite a bit. So, yeah, and then I always put this note on here, but anyways, on the water and irrigation funds, because they do not build reserves as much as some of those other enterprise funds. But anyways, it looks like we're in good shape. Like I said, we'll have the auditors out here in the fall, and everything will be audited at that point, and they'll tell us how we did. But from my perspective, we're in great financial shape. So,
Thank you, Todd.
any questions on that?
No, thank you.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's move to 12D, our council reports. First of all, let me just commend all of you for the hard work that you've put into not only Hot Wheels and hot dogs to 4th of July, to all of the long nights and days that you each put into making the 4th of July a great event. So thank you. Mont, do you want to give us your version?
Of
Updates, whatever
updates, okay.
reports you have.
Just one update. We have a night out against crime coming up on Tuesday, August the 6th at 6 p.m. over at the Square. We've got a lot of good participants coming, so we're excited about that. It's an event that,
Okay, so August the 6th is a Thursday.
so I'm sorry, 4th, my bad, Tuesday.
Okay,
August the
okay,
4th. Yeah,
okay.
Tuesday.
What time, Mark?
6 o'clock, 6 to 8. So we're excited about that. We just need to get the word out. And so a lot of public on that. Fire department is supporting us full force. So thank you, Tony, and your team. We appreciate that. And I think we've got the life flight coming at 7:30, correct? So there we go, Luke. So no, it should be a really good event and free food too. So that's a good thing.
Who's cooking this year?
Craig is, so.
I'll be there at 6:30.
That's it for me, Mayor.
Oh, that's great. And thanks again for your help on the parade.
No, thank you.
I think why don't you just give us an update of the kind of the recap meeting, if you will.
Yeah, Rebecca and I and the mayor, we had a meeting on Tuesday night with the parade committee. Did a little pizza dinner to thank them for their hard work. The feedback, which, hearing it from them, we talked about it a lot amongst ourselves, but hearing from them, we had a lot of positive feedback on the parade. So overall, a really good success. It's probably the biggest parade that we've ever had. probably the most people in Hiram that have ever attended. And so we were really pleased. We did something different. I'll let Rebecca, well, you can talk about. We did something different with the square in terms of bringing back food vendors, bringing back different vendors to sell their products and whatnot. I think the biggest success was the inflatables. We had 10 different inflatables, and that absolutely went over really good. So overall, really good success in terms of safety. Nobody was hurt, so that's positive. The other thing is that we had a lot of good suggestions in terms of how we can make it better. And the theme was tweak, not overhaul, which I love to hear. So make some minor tweaks to it to continue to improve and make it better. But overall, a success is the feedback I've received from a lot of different people.
Thank you.
Can
Todd?
I make a comment on that? For
Please.
financial? Is that gonna probably be, you're gonna continue that, right? So we probably need to maybe add a little. more money
Maybe,
to the
but there
budget.
were additions this year for America 250 that we will
We
not
won't
have
do,
next
yeah.
year. And purchases that were made that we can reuse from year to year. So we can maybe look at it and see, but I'm not sure we would need to necessarily increase what we have, but maybe we need to talk about that and see.
We should, yeah.
Now, I like the idea, Mont, that you indicated that your 4th of July committee was going to meet monthly, even starting before.
Yeah, that
They're
was.
getting ready for the 4th of July in December.
that-
They're doing the December
Right.
celebration.
You're absolutely right.
celebration.
We're
Yeah.
going to start early.
Great. Yeah, well, thank you, Mont. Craig?
Just a couple items, some feedback that your committee maybe already has discussed this, but I've heard from a few people, loved the items on the square. Some of the vendors who typically would use their cell phones for charging, Square or whatever, Venmo or Wi-Fi. There was several people told me that just with the number of people in downtown Hiram, that cell phone the systems were jammed up. They couldn't get cell phones to work for taking payments for meals or
Yeah.
things on the square or anything like that.
Really
And so,
good feedback. on
so
that.
the question came up is, could the city's Wi-Fi password or something be passed out to vendors so that they could, collect money
That's a
and
great
things from
idea.
like that? Because there was a big backlog on their payment systems were jammed up.
Hold on, Tony, did you have a comment?
Yeah, so I was at Chiefs meeting last night, and apparently you can contact Verizon and they can bring a truck out that will double the service.
Oh, nice.
Lewiston usually does that, and they forgot to, and they lost all service for 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Cell phone service got overloaded. I didn't know that, but I learned that last night. You can contact Verizon ahead and they can come boost the system for the day.
AT&T.
No, it's
Yeah,
good
I
to
That's
know.
know
great.
that, but I know that Lewiston talked about that. They have a new mayor and he didn't know about that and forgot to do it. So I know there's a way to fix it.
Okay. That one of those is a good suggestion. Either one of them be a good suggestion.
Yeah.
That's I didn't know that either. Thanks for sharing that.
Thanks for sharing that, Tony.
Okay, so that was one item I heard. Where the city council didn't pass out water bottles at the end of the parade. I actually got to go back and see most of the parade this year. Great, but by the time it got to the last couple of blocks, there were some significant gaps in it. There always will be to some degree or whatever, but to the point that people were leaving en masse and the sheriff's deputies were driving back and forth saying there's still more coming, and there was still a lot more coming. I don't know how you address that. The committee may talk about it, but one thing, a lot of it is usually related to there is a float that either has lots of young kids that are walking or elderly people that just can't walk that pace. And so maybe on the parade and entry forms or whatever, something that talks about here's the rate you need to be able to walk to to be able to participate reasonably or I mean, I had one float, I actually walked down the street and said, come on, you guys, you got to get moving, because they had just stopped and all the floats were backing up behind them, and they were sitting there talking to one of the people on the side of the street. You know, saw a friend, let's just stop and visit for a while. And I walked a half a block to tell them to, let's go, you guys, we got to get moving again.
Yeah, that's a great
And
point.
so, I don't know, just the gaps was the only negative thing that I've heard about the parade is
Yeah, we had
there's
an
some
older,
pretty good
we had an
gaps
older
there.
car that broke down
Overheated.
too, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but those are really good suggestions.
On to my museum report. Actually, before I get to the museum, recreation, Robert forwarded this to me. I'm not sure if he sent it to everybody, and Mayor, you may have more information. I don't know if you're going to share it or if I can just ask you to, if you're familiar with it, but Robert, and I think you're pretty involved with this, Mayor, working on a trail system around Hiram Reservoir.
Mhm.
That's exciting. I would like to hear if you have more of a report, that more details to share. I just know that Robert's working on that. It sounds like we're getting the final agreements or easements in place for that. And if you have more to add, I would love to hear it, but that's exciting. So.
I don't have any more to add, other than I know that, it's finally getting traction. They were doing soil samples and looking at exact routes, and that came out last week. And so I think that is in printed form. I don't have that, but it will be an incredibly good trail that will start on, what is that, 6th West County, 6th West?
I shut it off.
By 6600 South, actually, where they put in the rail fence. That will be the trailhead. And then it will go down off the west side of that, down along and up the south, up around to the head of the dam. There'll be a walking bridge, an elevated bridge that will go over to the west to the other side. And then it'll follow down around Rocky Point and down around the edge of the reservoir, all the way down to what I called Devil's Half Acre as a kid. I don't know what they call it now, but it's an incredibly good long trail that is going to open up a lot of great land that hasn't been seen.
Yeah. And most of the soil stabilization cars have been removed. So.
Well,
Is that Devil's Half Acre?
Nice way to put it.
was that?
Is that Devil's Half Acre, that were the old cars?
No, there's no cars in Devil's Half Acre that we're going to talk about tonight.
Just a couple of other quick items here from the museum. The Grand Old Flag is part of, the museum's component to some of the 4th of July activities. In the 4 days that, in the time periods that was open, there were 844 people came in to see that. Approximately half of them, really close to half, were on the 4th of July, and then about 100, and just the 2 hours on Sunday, there were over 100 people that came in that evening, and then about 150 people on the other days. And so that
That's a
was
great
more people than
exhibit, yeah.
before, a little bit more than before, but it's open, like 2 days before. I think last year there were about 750 people that came to see that. That was good. There's a Smithsonian traveling exhibit, America 250 traveling exhibit that's in the museum. It's one of, I think, 5 or 6 that are traveling as part of America 250 throughout the nation. And we're fortunate enough to have it here actually over the 4th of July. If you haven't stopped in the museum to look at that, I would encourage you to. It's mostly some presentation boards. Well, it's all in presentation boards, but there's some questions and things on there that are really intriguing, makes you think pretty hard and be grateful, to me anyway, be very grateful to be able to live in this nation. So encourage, if you haven't seen that, to stop in and see that presentation. The City Museum is continuing to work on the Know Your Treaty displays. That's a multiple year win. Again, this was a nationwide win that Hiram City is participating with Native American community, the Shoshone Band here. And because of Jamie's, literally because of her connections with the humanities, Utah Humanities, they said, we know you're doing this. We have some funding. We want to give it to you. We know what you'll do with it. So this funding hires 2 additional interns to help specifically with that exhibit. And so those interns are part of the Shoshone community. And so now we have, people who actually have that as part of their heritage working on those displays. So that was kind of a cool addition to that work. And let's see. And then the last item I have is I've kind of, after the patriotic program, I've added some things to the time capsule. And a couple of those items, these were, if you went into the Grand Old Flag, you saw these printouts that were done on the 1929 printing press as part of the print shop in the museum.
Oh, cool.
And I thought I need to write up a little statement on what these are, because it just says Hiram City Museum print shop at the bottom, but it doesn't say how it was printed or the background of the print shop. So I would like to include that in here. I've also,
That would be great. I brought my grandkids in when Steve Downs was doing that. And he gave them all one of those.
that's
That
awesome. Yeah.
was really impressive from that old
So
press that he had.
yeah, that's been a really cool benefit. People from, this isn't part of my report, it doesn't take up my time. From the university,
Reclaim my
the
time.
museums at the university, and they have a historic print. I don't know what it's called up there, group or organization, but they have been out to the museum and really envied that little print shop aspect of our museum there. I've also included in here, if you want to include it, with the items that you put together, Nalian, a copy of Pastor Woody's comments.
That was
Thought that would be
excellent.
kind of nice to just put that in here. So 50 years from
Yeah, I
now, we
would
could read
I would
that
like
as
a
well.
copy of that since it wasn't there.
So, I think I emailed that. I hope, did you guys?
I got a copy.
That,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
That was what he gave to me. And so, and anyway, so I just have added a couple of items in.
Okay.
It was excellent.
And so the last thing I have is, Mayor, I'm very impressed. You did a great job managing the meeting tonight. We got finished before my computer battery ran out, so. you did a
Well,
great
that was
job.
my goal. I had incentive.
So,
Thank you, Craig. And thanks again for the Hot Wheels. That was an incredible car show, by the way.
it's a nice one.
That was excellent. So thank you for your effort there. Nayland?
So, youth council, the candy cabins are going gangbusters. I think I've probably bought about 80 boxes of cotton candy so far.
I got a question about that. I mean, should we continue that? And then the pedestrian traffic is just horrific.
Yes, we will.
I can't get
Anyway.
to the parking lot when those guys are out there.
No, it's been going really well. It's something that I think the kids in the community really enjoy. Also, we'll be doing with the youth council, we'll be doing a day at the city, where the youth council will come and we will feed them lunch. They want to tour the city offices and the library, and we'll do the sewer and our electrical systems. Anyway, so we'll do that, and then they're going to go to the lake and just hang out for the rest of the day after that.
What day was that again?
That's the 22nd.
I don't know if there's time, but if there is time, take them up Blacksmith Fork Canyon to the power plant up there.
Mm,
I don't know what they think, but to me, that's
yeah,
pretty cool to see
maybe we'll
little
do
old
that, because I'm
generator
gonna have
operating
Larry
and things, but
anyway.
I don't know
Um,
if there's time to run up there or not, but it's
yeah.
pretty neat.
But yeah, so that's, and the youth council have been fantastic with helping for 4th of July and all of the things that they've done. So and then the senior center on Monday, we had interviews for an assistant, and we had about 26 applicants and narrowed it down to 4 to interview, and one has been selected. So they're excited at the senior center to have another set of hands. And that's my report.
Thank you for your work on the patriotic meeting too, by the
Yeah.
way. You weren't there, but you did a great job.
Thanks.
And we really appreciate that. The weather was cool. We went just a little bit long, but I think the messages were powerful.
That's an understatement. It was freezing.
Okay, it was really cold.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I was in Taiwan cooking. So
Yeah, that makes me feel better.
it was so hot.
But it was a good patriotic meeting. So thank you for your efforts in putting that together.
And thank you all for filling in.
Michael, well, let me back up. The one comment that we got was we needed more music from the children.
Yeah, I heard that.
And so they did an incredible job. And
Yeah.
Barbara Scheidler, if you're listening, Barbara, we love you. You did an incredible job. So thank you.
Maybe they ought to
Robert
do
sent me
another- just a
videos, so I got to
program
see.
sometime through the city. I
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah,
maybe at the high
maybe.
school
Yeah.
or something.
I think it was the largest children's choir they've had. was
Yeah,
this
yeah,
year.
it was.
Yeah,
It
More
was.
participation than
Yep.
any other year.
Yeah. Michael?
We had, since our last city council meeting on June 23rd, we had active shooter. It was part of our emergency training series, and we had the police chief from North Logan, and I actually thought he did a great job. I learned stuff that I never would have ever imagined from an active shooter, and really how to what to do in those situations. So I wish we could have had it recorded. We didn't, but go ahead.
I really wanted to be there, had other conflicting meetings.
Yeah.
What was the attendance? How was the attendance?
You know what? I actually
compared to the
had
first
about, it was about 30, so it's about the same, which surprised me. I thought, wow, this is going to be the one that if anybody comes, this is the one they'll show up to. He shared some things to me that, well, not to me, to the whole group, that I'm like, wow, that's, beware of his first thing was be aware of your situation all the time. Just make sure you know where exits are. You know, if you see somebody that you don't think should be there, you know, pay attention, you know, and he didn't make, the first thing isn't to pull out your gun and become the hero, you know, that was not it. And I just thought he gave some excellent bits of knowledge that to me I gleaned. So anyway, and I had a lot of people that were attendant said, wow, that was really good. Wish there would have been more people. So anyway, so I thought it was great. The second thing is in regards to our upcoming July emergency training series. It's going to be on emergency water purification, water use. How you make sure you've got drinking water, and if the city isn't providing water, what do we do? So that's an awesome. And then in August, we will be doing one on sanitation. So those are the last two, and based on how it works, whether we continue to do it next year. The last thing is the city provided a computer for the ham radio group that we meet every Tuesday night. But this computer is going to be used for what's called WinLink, and that's for sending data instead of through the internet. Say the internet's down, we can use radio waves and send data, Excel spreadsheets or whatever, to the county or other cities and get things just as if we were getting an email. If we need to request some equipment or somebody wants something from us instead of having to continue, write it all down, you can put it in a document and can be sent. So it's a good thing to have. We're going to try to have the ham radio group be part of Night Out Against Crime.
Oh, that'd be
So
awesome. It'd be really cool if you could have somebody there
demo.
demoing who they can reach, how far they
Yeah.
can talk, where they're
We hope to do all of that.
That would
So
be so cool.
so
That'd be a
we
great
can show,
addition.
hey, at the ham radio, we can reach Honeyville. We can reach Thigal, so we use a repeater, and actually we'd have a data link that actually goes clear down to Arizona. So that could be from just a handheld radio. We hook up to Mount Pisgah that's here, and then that actually, so I'll tell them that we want to try something like that.
That'd be
But
awesome.
the other thing I did put in the newsletter this month, if there are people that that are ham radio operators that would be interested, we wanted to say, hey, we want the group to kind of grow here for our emergency support group. So anyway, there's something in the newsletter. We want volunteers.
Thank you, Michael. Rebecca?
Not a whole lot to add other than, 4th of July was great. We have, like Mont said, met with the mayor and decided to continue to do that monthly, August through December, to get planning and get a jump start on next year, and then put our citizen committees together starting in January. I think one thing that we can do better next year, many, but was I don't think a lot of people realized the inflatables were free. And I had a lot of people throughout the afternoon coming up asking, where do they get tickets? What does it cost? And we're just delighted when they found out there was no charge for it. So I think we can advertise that better next year and let people know.
That's cool.
But yeah, we had good turnouts. Robert and Mont and I and our families were all there. So it was a great time, and I think lots to build on for next year. So, and the youth council ran the inflatables in the afternoon, which really saved us too and helped us. And Friend Weller jumped in with less than 24 hours notice when our bands backed out and brought his equipment and set up. So we had music going on the square from the pavilion. I didn't get it as lemonade that I promised him. I just realized, but he was a trooper. And so thank you for doing that. And yeah, I think it was great.
Thank you, friend. Appreciate your help with that. Anything else?
I know, I think that's it for now.
So let me just give you what I think is a great update on our odor problem. Michael O'Brien came out from SCD out of Kansas City. We met with him. He had spent the better part of a full day in the morning with JBS, the engineering and the management down there, and going over the installation of the equipment that has been done. And within the next 2 weeks, I'm told that product will be applied to the product that creates the odor in our community. That's the first step. And once it is applied there, then obviously it goes down to the landscaping company, where it's put into piles and then windrowed. And I met with Miller Landscaping yesterday, and they are applying equipment on their windrow turning machine that will apply more of the same product to mitigate the smell. The product, the probiotic, actually accelerates the composting process, and so it's a real benefit to their operation down there. In talking with Angela, she was with me when we met. Were you there too? Was the council, any council member there? I think maybe it was just Angela, but she indicated and passed this on to JBS also, that at the rendering plant, thanks, fire department.
I think those have lots more.
alarm just to get.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that didn't go off an hour ago.
I get that a lot.
Going for cupcakes.
But Angela had reported to JBS, and she knew that her and Michael had had a discussion, and in the renderings operation in their process in the effluent, they use quite a bit of chlorine. And Michael said the product that they have would replace chlorine, and it's quite a bit less expensive. And so they were very interested in looking at that product. So I just feel very cautiously optimistic tonight that I think we're on the road to improving the air quality in Hiram. We had our wonderful, I thought it was a great business lunch with our business owners from the community on Tuesday, and had the opportunity to sit down with the management from JBS along with some other wonderful businesses, by the way. And I think the attitude right now in the climate, the temperature in our business segment of our community is very positive. I think it's commendable, the incredible businesses that we have in Hiram, but just the willingness to work and work together in a lot of different causes. So that's my report on that. A lot of other little things that are going on that I don't know that we need to report on right now, but some real good things are happening. The fire board takes up a lot of my time right now, that and some of the other things that we've been working on as well. But I just feel really good about the state of the city right now and the direction that we're going. And I think, I have to be honest, I think it's because of you, the council, and your incredibly good attitudes and just the hard work that you put in, that I feel that sense of real community and pride and a real positive attitude towards the things that are going on. So I just want to publicly thank you for all you do, for the time and effort you put into everything that you do. I watched Craig's computer and I thought it was just a red map, but it was all of his red questions. And I kind of chuckled to myself and I thought, you know what? I really appreciate Craig Rasmussen's attention to detail, Craig. So thank you. Just want you to know that we look up to you as our senior member on this committee and this council, and appreciate all you do. So with that, I'm going to be quiet and let somebody make a motion and we'll go home, huh?
Yeah, I would just
Can I
really quick.
Tell you guys real quick, Mayor, we have hired Scott Allgood to go out and start issuing warnings for people violating the water. And so the reason why I want this is for people that are listening. Part of it is what he's hearing are people they didn't know that water restrictions were in place. Tomorrow you'll see water restriction signs go up everywhere. The water restrictions are no watering 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You are not allowed to water more than 3 days a week during that 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So 3 days a week. No hard surface runoff. And the first time he goes out and just talks to them, tells them, makes sure that they're aware of the restrictions. And the second time, there is a $100 fine with an automatic disconnect until May 2027. So that is where we're at. He's probably meeting with about 15 people a day and sometimes more depending on what days he's out there. And I think it's been positive. Like, he's had a lot of really positive experiences with people just saying, I didn't know, thanks for letting me know. And I give that credit to his personality, of
Yeah.
not being just being Scott. So anyways, if you hear people are getting citations, just know it's always just a warning, the first one.
Mayor, I forgot. I didn't have it written down, so I forgot. I was going to give a little bit of water report. Irrigation company.
Okay.
Right now, the stream flow is down quite a bit from a normal year, but even as dry as it is, we're down. 2024 was above average in our water flow. And right now, at this point in time, we're down about 47% of the stream flow that we had in 2024, which was above normal. So realistically, we're about 30 to 35% below a normal
Average.
year,
Average.
which is extremely an average year, yeah, which is extremely fortunate, looking at the way most of the rest of the state is with respect to their water situation. Right now, we are there's a lot of complexities on how the water rights and things work, but we're running about 60 to 65, 70, close to 65% of what our normal irrigation flow would be. We're using a lot of, Hiram City has storage rights as well as many other irrigation companies in Hiram Reservoir. Not Hiram City, Hiram Irrigation Company does. At the current rate of use, there's enough storage capacity or storage water using out of Hiram Reservoir to get right like to the end of August, which is a really good water year. We're in a really good situation given the conditions of last winter for irrigation. If we can, and usually in the latter part of August, middle to latter part of August, there's typically some rainstorm events where a lot of the agriculture users, they're already starting to shut down on their irrigation and things that way. And so we are in a pretty decent water situation. Will you please tell Scott to swing by my house? I'm going to make sure everything's turned on because I would love to have our irrigation water shut off for a year or so, then I don't have to mow the lawn. That would be sweet. So, but I do have a question about that. Myself and probably I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are still have like, irrigation systems. They don't have automatic sprinklers. So are we saying that people that are in that situation have to get up and turn their sprinklers on at 3 a.m. and move them every 20 minutes in the middle of the night? I think that's inappropriate, but.
The reason why they decided that is because there's no way of someone to know if they are
Okay.
watering outside the hours. And you're right, like it's difficult, but we get probably 5 calls a day from people saying, hey, I just drove by so-and-so or my neighbor's watering. And so I don't know how you would distinguish to say it's okay if they're watering because they have a hose, but because you have a sprinkler system. But I mean, that's the mayor.
As you look at
That's the question.
the restrictions we put in, I still believe that, we've limited it to 3 days. Now you can water those 3 days, and we're saying just not between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., but you have 3 days a week where you can water. And certainly I got to think that if you were a good steward over that water, that you can keep your lawn green and your garden watered with 3 days of water. I just think that it may be that you might have to get up at 2 o'clock and just change the sprinkler if it's running, but yeah, it may not be
Or just
ethical.
let it run the rest of the night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just think that sometimes, the
So it's
the situation we're in, and you just gave us a good report. I think that good report is really due in part to the fact that I think our citizens have been incredibly good about being good stewards over the water. And so I don't see that we will need to reduce it from 3 days a week. I think that we'll be fine based on what we're hearing, what Cade tells us with the streams and what you've just reported. And so I think that we'll be able to get through this year fine, but I think we still need to be water wise and be good stewards over that water. It just doesn't make sense to turn your hose on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when it's 99 degrees outside. And you just,
I agree with that.
so anyway, thank you, Steph, for bringing that up and for your water report, Craig.
Yeah, I was just going to make maybe a last comment. And that's if you haven't registered for the UAMPS conference that's in Logan, I would really encourage you to. It's a really good conference and it's local right here. And there's some things to, you can get your family involved in a little bit. And I think that there's some training that's good. And then they have dinner and stuff and it doesn't cost us, well, probably our membership and UMs, but it's a good thing.
Good. Okay.
I think it's here in Logan this year. right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
It
So
is.
it's easy to get here.
Sorry, I was-
And they have a nightly dinner and you can bring your family to it and they're good with that.
Okay. Anything else?
Is his computer still running?
Mine's off.
Oh, well, we were trying to make it.
My battery would have been dead by now,
I move
but
to adjourn the meeting.
so moved.
So moved.
I'll second.